End of Evangelion is my favourite film, and simultaneously something I hate. As an EVA fan, it's a masterpiece of animation, but as someone who does partake in media that tackles heavy topics, it's just missing a certain something. You can take good things from it, deterrence from never learning to be better, but that's never really sat well with me. Fear and anger isn't the right way to go about teaching things, and it seems that's really all End of Evangelion had. And Arno I think agreed with this. There's proof of him thinking it was just an okay movie, even on the day it was released. That day he decided he was going to create a new script. A second chance.
It's shocking how simple it is to tear the world apart. Although, rebuilding it from scratch is not so easy.
So, I had that preamble because I already know what a lot of people are saying. Why are you talking about Rebuild? Didn't they just make Ava worse? And yes, 1.0 and 2.0 are just worse versions of the TV series, but come back. Rebuild is very fan-servicey. I mean, 1.0 is a shot-for-shot recreation of the first 6 episodes, and 2.0 is an adaptation of the rest, but they made the entire plot hornier. But in my last video, which you should go watch if you haven't seen it, I think I made it pretty clear how we got here, and why things like End of Evangelion had to exist. I don't think from this it's a bad assumption that a non-zero amount of people bought into this stuff. But in all honesty, 1.0 and 2.0 are just hard to write about, but I think there is some good in them too. It basically being a recap lets you kind of think about Shinji and his self-esteem a lot more. You get the vibe that Shinji is actually not really useful in the Rebuild. I mean, Asuka is introduced by beating an angel in one shot, doing a move that in the original she had to do with Shinji, but by herself. This is kind of important because if you don't remember, Shinji's entire identity is piloting an Ava, but this tells you Shinji doesn't really need to do that. So what's his point in this? This reduces him to one thing, an audience surrogate so they can live out nostalgia, or their fantasies that might relate to the very important changes made to the characters and events. The titles of the movies I think perfectly capture the mood and intention with a lot of the choices. 1.0, you are not alone. Mostly follows the original story, so has a very similar message to it. You may feel alone, isolated, but you aren't really. You just have to let people in. It just feels like no one gets it because you need to show it to another person and maybe get hurt in that. But on the other hand, 2.0, you cannot advance. It's funny because it's new content that in reality is entirely derivative. What are we doing here? Why have I even considered talking about what is essentially something I've already talked about? Why are you watching this? And despite all that, why did it then make profit? It's pretty telling that the conclusion to 2.0 is Shinji, the symbol of the audience surrogate, trying to desperately save the symbol of the problem with some of the more fixated side of the fandom. I even have a Rey figure, next to my big cool manly guts figure and all my plastic Gundam model kits. Yeah, I have a problem, I know. But 1.0 and 2.0 being a retread is something you kind of just have to get through. 3.0 wasn't the most critically praised movie, but even then, I do think 3.0 sets up a lot of the stuff so that 3.0 plus 1.0 can run. It sets up a pretty bleak reality for Shinji. He's told he basically destroyed the world, that he only doomed everyone around him. He didn't even save Rey.
Does Rei Ayanami read books?
The one thing that he tried to do that caused all of this. If he can't do anything right,
From this moment on, you do nothing.
But Shinji runs from that idea. He retreats to Nerve. Gendo's still holding on to this goal of instrumentality. Nerve leaves him with an empty life. He becomes a slave to the desires of his father, and lives only for that goal. There's no emotion or personality. A life lived controlled by desire and fixation. Ran by your past. Causes you to live only for that. But then Kaoru shows up. The piano scene is memed up, but it's actually a really good microcosm. Shinji is hesitant at first, but Kaoru just gives him the push he needs. At first they're not really in sync, but over time Shinji gets into the swing of things, and they start to play really well.
Isn't it nice what two people can do?
I love Shinji's still smirk at the end yeah, fuck yeah, little guy, you did it. And Shinji starts to really open up to Kaoru. He wants to get better, but when he asks Kaoru how he does get better,
Then keep practicing. Just repeat the same thing over and over.
man, this scene's so fucking good. Kaoru never told Shinji to learn piano, just encouraged him, and when Shinji did take to his own, guided him through that. He doesn't try to fit Shinji into a box, and will even challenge him and call him out for toxic behaviour. He tells Shinji he may have destroyed the Earth, and everyone does hate him, but he doesn't have to stay that way. If he becomes so fixated on trying to deny responsibility, he can't move forward, but if he acknowledges it and tries to amend it, he can right what he did. Living in the past is how nothing changes. The blissful parts remain, but the horrible aspects also do, and it will be torn away from you at some point. But you can work back to that. Live a better life than you are now if things go bad. But it will never be the exact same. You need to accept that. Make sure you are doing the best you can, because you cannot redo. Three point oh didn't go as planned. You can tell from just how the preview in 2.0 is just like not what actually happens in 3.0. And it's recently come out that the circumstances of Rebuild weren't entirely free of strife. I've been incredibly concerned for his juniors. Ever since Ava hit it big, Gainax finally was having some financial success, but it wasn't really trickling down to the animators. And after a while, Anno had enough. He formed Studio Kara, a studio he would ensure was run and owned by the workers who actually made the anime. But this would have been super scary, right? Breaking from your established studio to form something you control, but has inherent risk in it. What if you flounder? No one cares. You make a dud after many months or years of work. Would it have all been for nothing then? I think it can be kind of assumed that Anno probably wasn't feeling the best. There is a lot of devlore and behind the scenes about Anno and his state of mind at this time, but I'm gonna mostly just glaze over it because all we really need to know is Anno got sad, he rejected jobs, but he was talking into being the GOAT by making the best Godzilla movie ever. While he was depressed, disaster struck, and he was still able to move past it. It's abundantly clear that Anno is continually not satisfied with his work, and Ava is perceived to be his magnum opus, so he keeps going back, trying it again. But every time, he was a slightly different person, with a slightly different perspective. He experienced more of his life, so when he went back, the only thing he could do was start from scratch, and rebuild it. This new Ava has a feeling that Anno doesn't want to keep coming back. He wants to give people space and an ability to sort things out themselves, pick up the pieces like he did. Shinji relied on Karu, but this made it all the harder for him to let go of Karu when he died. He retreats from people, being torn between all these wants that people have for him. He's done with people, the world. He feels he only fucks up, so why would he just keep doing that? He would rather just not hurt people.
I don't want to talk to anyone. I don't want anyone to come here. I just want to be left alone.
I'm gonna break flow here because it's not a Zuck video unless I have a mental breakdown in the middle of it. This scene, when I watched it recently, it hit me too hard out of nowhere, and it made me think about why I don't like Shinji in End of Evangelion, but I like him everywhere else. And I think it's really down to how, in every instance, he's hopeless. He feels like he doesn't deserve what he has, but in End of Evangelion, he blames the world for that. In Rebuild, he feels useless, like he only makes people live worse. He just wishes people would let him go for the worthless piece of shit he is. But people still won't do that.
But why is everyone so kind to me?
It's because we like you.
He loves the world. He wants the best for everyone, but he doesn't feel that he deserves the same. His issue isn't anger, but a lack of confidence and respect for himself. He doesn't actually believe he can fix the world, so he just does nothing. But despite all that, people still do help him, and they don't judge him.
Thank you for talking to me. Let's do something hoping we can get along.
And that's what lets him realize that people aren't just being nice to him, because that's just what people do. They do genuinely just want him around. And that was too real. The confidence he gains in this allows him that when disaster does happen,
I wanted to be with the boy I liked forever. Goodbye.
Ayanami!
he doesn't mope or retreat. He sees that Rei would have wanted him to return to Rayleigh. She wanted to stay with the boy she loved, but would settle for him just being happy. And if he retreats again, shuts himself off, He's just not gonna move past her.
Asuka, I will go with you.
Okay. Well, these are the rules, so...
The entire climax of Rebuild isn't a fight, but Shinji and Gendo just sitting down and talking for like the first time ever. And in this, you see that Gendo is basically just Shinji. He feels alone, becoming cynical and bitter in that. He thought the world was only lying to him, so he just shuts himself off.
I liked being alone. Neither I nor anyone else would get hurt that way.
Until he meets Yui. Yui showed him how to live, how to be happy and let people in. But then she left him. Instead of moving on, he became dedicated to a plan to see Yui again, which only brought him deeper and deeper, so fixated on chasing that happiness in his past.
Am I forbidden to meet Yui? Because I am weak?
That's the difference between Shinji and Gendo, but Gendo let trauma and loss control him, trying to retreat to what he did have at one point. Shinji accepted the loss. He didn't forget it, but he used it as a fuel to fulfill what they would have wanted from him. He didn't retreat from people, he let them in. And that's what Gendo should do too, because it's never too late to change. He does get his wish, being able to see Yui, by finally accepting his son.
I see. So that's where you were.
Yui was always within Shinji. Yui was always within other people. Gendo just had to get over that fear, and let another person in again. But every story of Evangelion has been about Shinji, his progression and his movement forward. But it's never been about anyone else. Rebuild apparently, when in production, had a working name of G Evangelion, a reference to G Gundam, the first Gundam to break off and go against the only established continuity at that point. A new perspective on what Gundam can be. Anno felt he had said all he could, that Evangelion had just been a cycle of him telling these stories over and over again, and it's time for someone else to tell their story. Asuka finally is told she is okay how she is, that people do see her.
It's okay, Asuka. You're who you are, and there's nothing wrong with that.
She shouldn't live for the validation of others, but take care of herself. That doesn't mean doing it alone, but accepting others and their feelings and criticism, as they are.
Princess, take care of yourself.
Karo needs an existence with no tie to Shinji. He needs his own identity, his own future.
Perhaps you could take up working the earth with me and Katsuragi once you retire.
That sounds nice.
Rei needs to stop worrying about Shinji. Shinji showed her how to live. He learnt to live from her as well, but he learnt to live without her too.
So please, don't worry.
Okay. I won't.
Shinji lets go of the Evangelions. Anno lets go of every character. Not because they don't want to see them again, but because they've experienced all they can with them for now. In the end, Gendo didn't actually want to only see his wife, but he also wanted the release the instrumentality would give her. Shinji hopes for the new beginnings that Evangelion being erased will give. In the end, he isn't erasing the people of good times. Anno just feels that Evangelion helped him, and it's done its job. I've always struggled to think of how I'm going to actually end this video. I've had a general overview of what I've wanted to do since I started the first video, but this isn't just the culmination of a video series. It's also my final words on Evangelion, one of my favourite series. It's something that means so much to me, and I have so much to say about it, but not enough space. This video, if I did have that space, would have been so much different. But alas, I don't want to bore you. So all I'll say is, Evangelion shaped me into who I am. I am grateful for that, but I can't keep living by it. I need to experience new things. New stories need to be told. It's time to just let go and move on. So with that, I just want to thank everyone for the love and care that they give me. The same care that let Shinji grow. I may relate to Shinji in his hopelessness, but I hope to grow in the same way that he did. It's scary moving on. I don't know if everyone will stick around, if I will be able to keep telling my story, but I hope I can. And that's the best thing I can do.
Ah, come on.
Let's go.
Fly me to the moon and let me play among the stars. Won't you let me see what spring is like on Jupiter and Mars? In other
Asuka, I will go with you.
Okay. Well, these are the rules, so...
Hey, you. You're finally awake. You were trying to cross the border, right? Walked right into that Imperial ambush, same as us.